So I want to talk about story and player narrative in the world of Elite Dangerous, and it's worked really well. You know, the rise of we've seen the first player power coming to power now. We're there in 2.2, backed by 15,000 players, which is a small portion of the total player base. But that's shows that there's so many dedicated people supporting the new guy Yuri Grom to come. Very exciting. But what it means is how much people care about the different elements of the galaxy. We've seen with Jaques Station, we're seeing people establishing a foothold outside the main human bubble. Is all great to see, and it sort of echoes the part of the story where we have this whole concept which we've called the missing, of people over the last millennium, when spaceships became ever cheaper, headed out into the unknown. We've talked about the Empire, but there will be so many other people who headed out on their equivalent of the Oregon Trail or whatever and didn't make it. You know, where you see people who they may have built some sort of homestead or whatever, but didn't survive long enough. They didn't make that first winter in the terms of the American settlement. And so I think in terms of the way the story is pulled together, I've been really delighted the way people have engaged with it, you know, that and the way it has worked. I mean, we've seen the Dangerous games over the last few months, which I think have worked very well, and people have really, it's captured people's imagination, as has Jaques. I'm amazed the dedication just to get all that way out there takes ages. And I thought the Pleiades were quite a way out, you know, and but it's lovely to see so many people engaging with this, and with the wonderful world that actually players are creating as much as anything. You know, this sort of emergent story where people are interacting, people do care about the future, and where, even though it's not sort of initially quite what we expected, the amount of role-playing we see going on. And also the other thing is, I typically play as Commander Braben in Open, and people are actually, it's really great. You know, I did think originally I would just get killed, and actually that did happen a lot in the beta. I think quite a lot of times on YouTube. But anyway, the point being that people are genuinely they chat. I met some people out on Merope not long ago, you know, and it's just fun to have such a real sense of positivity, of community. And I think a lot of those features, you know, people playing in Wings and things like that, have really embraced that. You know, we see these, the Distant Worlds expedition, which I think was wonderful, crossing all the way to the other side of the galaxy, which is even more a huge undertaking. And the people who meet up at Sagittarius A star, for those who don't know, is the black hole at the centre of our galaxy, which is a hugely long way away from the human bubble. And even the human bubble in Elite Dangerous, which is a huge volume with a huge number of stars and systems, which is where almost all of the game activity takes place, is a tiny little dot on the scale of the galaxy. And so I think that the rise of the player-driven story is wonderful. We're seeing so many people engage with it, whether they're engaging with it just at a local level trading, but we're seeing more people sort of breaking out of that routine, if you like, and starting to engage with the story. That's something I want to see more of. And essentially it's something where we're at the beginning of something. We're going to see a lot more of these things to come. We're starting to see first indications of alien life. And I mean life, we've archaeology to come as well, and species that are long dead, but there's a reason they're long dead, and that will come. And I will even give a slight hint, the reason they're long dead is not. A lot of things that I don't want to spoil that are very, very exciting. There are some indications that we're showing here at Gamescom of what is in the galaxy. And that's, of course, extremely exciting. And so it's great fun from our side as well, you know, and this is why I'm trying not to give out spoilers, or I mean, there are some things that are slight spoilers, but it is very exciting. And to see how players react to it, to see how players interact when they do make discoveries. You know, I love some of the things that are coming, that are in there, some of the things that are already in there. And it's very funny as a game developer when you know something's there and it takes a long time for it to appear. for someone to essentially find it, because we've got such a big haystack with our needles in it, if you like, from the metaphoric point of view, for people to find things. But it's very, very exciting. You know, this is a step on the road. It's an important step on the road, but we have so many exciting things to come. You know, there is a real story that we are telling here that is great, and we're seeing some of the elements of it. But that's the really big thing that's to come as well. As that becomes more, there's more in the game, more visibility of it, and better ways for players to interact with it. And we're trying to make sure that the player-driven narrative is, it has the opportunity to be front and center. You know, we already call out commander names in Galnet when particular commanders have made a difference, if you like. And I think we want to see more and more of that, especially when it comes to big battles or significant battles which have changed the course of what might be to come. So Jaques Station is fascinating. The response to his plight. For those of you who don't know, Jaques runs a station that headed off into the unknown. There was a community goal where people brought a lot of supplies and fuel for his journey. It wasn't quite enough there, and I think other people brought unknown artifacts to him as well, so it didn't help. But he didn't make it as far as he'd hoped, so he ended up lost in space. He had a problem, he had a failure, and players finally found him in an immense galaxy. A player, and I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember the commander name, the guy who... I'm sure it will come up in the caption here. There you go. You're going to find who it is now. And found him, and then people have brought supplies to him, and now we've got a foothold, a human foothold, a long way outside the bubble, a really long way outside the bubble. I think that's amazing, the number of players who've made the journey and continuing to make the journey to bring him supplies, and I think that's really exciting. I think, you know, I'm hoping more settlements will be set up around it, and we'll get a second bubble. I think that's what looks like is going to happen. But that's being player driven, and that's great. It's really wonderful to see players engaging with different aspects of the story. So I think that's great, and it drives longevity in the game and the richness of the whole thing. You know, the whole sort of hut and mug thing as well, I thought was very interesting and funny. You know, I think it's really good, and, you know, so do you expect it? I think you hope for these sort of things. You hope people will really engage with it, and they have, and so it's really appreciated, and it's great to see, you know, that what we'll try and do is embrace that and make things better, so that there are more ways that these groups can have great fun in the future.